So the ultimate boon, which
Yeah.
I'm actually going to start using that as a handle. It was an
I'm
interesting.
imagining you like on a CB radio back in the 70s.
Right.
Breaker 49, this is the ultimate boon.
Yeah, there it is. An interesting topic from our last show, part 1. And we're going to continue that conversation today. What was so interesting for me in part 1 was the similarities of our early life and early creative outlet. I thought that was interesting that we were.
Yeah,
both.
the only difference is that you did yours with more style.
You haven't seen them. Yes, I want to compare your Assassino with
Don't go to Jupiter or he will F you up.
All of my characters looked like almost like Mad Magazine stuff. What was it? Was it Dave Berg? Was one of the main artists.
Yeah, I know who that is.
Yeah, that's kind of a big nose and
so wonderful stuff.
Yeah, very, very, very comedic stuff. But anyway, so we're going to continue that conversation today. So yeah, I'm excited about that.
Yeah, me too. And I was talking about it in terms of some work that I've done that people might know, but I'm going to take a different angle on it for today. And and I'm excited to see what you have to say. So I'm going to make you go first this time.
Oh. Okay, so I'm going to go first. So I spoke about the art side and that expression, that journey. I also think after slaying that dragon, or continuing to slay dragons, the career that most people know me for, the voice acting side. There's something about bringing joy to people and to the audiences that I truly feel is another part of my ultimate boon.
I can't wait to hear about it. Let's get to it.
Welcome to the Heart of the Cards, a conversation about creativity, inspiration, and dealing with what we're dealt.
Hey, this is Dan Green.
And Eric Stuart.
And we are talking about The Ultimate Boon Part 2. Still technically episode 14, as we like to number these things.
Thank goodness someone's keeping track.
Somebody is.
Yes.
I was talking to a friend yesterday who was very conscientious about wanting to listen to things in order. I'm like, yeah, sure. You don't really have to, but yeah, why not? So, but you were saying something about bringing joy through your work, which is not hard for me to imagine you doing. But let's go further with that idea. Tell me more, my friend.
Yeah. So, with the early versions of the comic strips and the music and that connection, that's a huge part of it. But there's also something about making someone smile or making someone laugh, a break from the day-to-day, the grind. That, to me, whether it's even meeting people at conventions who are the little kids who have the big grin on their face when I hold up the Squirtle picture or something like that, and they realize that I'm the voice of Squirtle, and the eyes wide open, and it's like, oh no way, that's crazy, like that innocence, that joy. I think that we can continue to bring that to people with what we do, and that's a special bonus to the career that I have chosen, that you have chosen, or has been chosen for us. There's something so wonderful about that. I remember early on in my I won't call it dating, but liking girls. One of the girls that I liked, who liked me back, said, "Yeah, you're cute and all, but you make me laugh. Like, you're really funny." And I think that's why I like you. And so, people want to laugh. They want to be happy. And I'm not saying I have some magic wand that I wave, but I've had the privilege of playing some funny characters, whether it's James from Team Rocket or even things that where people might not think I'm being funny, but Kaiba is funny too.
Oh, sure. He's got those zingers.
Or silly stuff, on Kirby and where I love to
Wait, Kirby was supposed to be silly? Oh, damn.
Well, that's true. A Meta Knight was truly a very serious
I played
character.
that M&E guy all wrong. Oh, well.
See, we work on so many shows together and yet not together.
And then not together.
Yeah, it's like, oh, right, you were on that? But there's something so cool about making people laugh or entertaining them and lifting their spirits. That is another part of my motivation and my ultimate boon. This is why I do what I do. I think that's great. I love when people make me laugh. When I'm having a very tough day, I like to watch movies or whatever in the evening. That's kind of my time. I'm sitting there with my wife and we're trying to pick out what we're going to watch tonight or whatever. And we have a brief conversation of, what are you in the mood for? I'm like thriller, sci-fi, this and that, or like, do you want to laugh? Do you want to watch? Do we do a stand-up thing or a comedy thing? And usually it's, let's just watch something funny, right?
Right.
Because it's the end of the day. It's like, let's just watch something funny and to cackle together or even by yourself at ridiculous jokes. And it's also healthy. It's really good for you to do that. One of my very, very dear friends, Chris Collet, who is also a voice actor, but also, yes, he's a good guy, who's also a fantastic a stage actor and movie actor. When we were young, we would both read comic books, eat hard pretzels, because those were our favorite, a box of hard pretzels, and each have a gallon of iced tea to ourselves and sit there together, just like on a couch together, reading our comics, whatever, and then just making each other laugh to try to get us to, spit out your iced tea or maybe get a choke on a hard pretzel or something like that. But
lovely.
The kind of laughter where you cannot breathe. You're crying,
I know.
and and afterwards you're exhausted. But the endorphins that are released, you just feel like I'm in a really good mood. I'm in a good place. So if I could be part of that with my journey, if I can make people reach that moment or feel that good with humor or with laughter, then I think that's a big part of why I do what I do.
I have something I want to ask you about what you just said, but that reminds me of there was this year or so in college where Anthony Salerno and I, Tony, as I call him, we share the same room, and so we're supposed to be going to sleep or whatever. But there were many nights where we were cracking each other up in the very same fashion.
Yes.
And if anybody has the pleasure of getting to know Tony, he's one of the funniest people you'll ever meet.
Yes.
And we love sci-fi and Blade Runner. And at the time, there was only one version of that movie. Now there's 15 cuts of it. Mm-hmm. But in the theatrical release, Harrison Ford notoriously does a horrible job with the old narration that is, the film noir throwback. And so at the end of the movie, the climactic moment, spoilers, character dies. But so he has this reflection again, horrible narration. And it's something along the lines of, I don't know why he saved my life. And it goes on to say, maybe because he learned that life was important. But in the movie, as that's happening, there's a bird, like a dove, that flies and then it flies away.
Yes.
But we just thought what was more appropriate to where Harrison Ford was coming from in that performance, it should have gone, I don't know why he saved my life. Maybe it's because I reminded him of a bird. Birds.
But that's great. I mean, and I bet, how many years ago was that joke created for the two of you? How many?
30?
Okay.
More than 30 years ago.
I bet if you had dinner with Tony, Anthony.
Which I'm doing next week. Yeah.
Yes, and you brought that up. The two of you would
it's
burst
coming
out
up now.
laughing just like you did back then. It's one
It's
of
true.
those.
It's true.
Yeah.
We went to go see the re-release of that together.
Yes,
Blade Runner.
That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
True. I like recurring jokes in people's lives. I
Yes.
like that those inside jokes that when someone is like unfortunately joining you for a meal who has no idea what you're talking about. Right?
All the in jokes. they're
Because
out. Yeah.
because when you see Anthony, all you need to say is birds, and he'll start
Oh, yes.
laughing. You won't
He
have
knows
to.
exactly.
You will not have to explain the joke to the table.
Nope. Nope.
But I love the fact that you will be able to share that moment of humor with him.
What I wanted to follow up with you was, so you create a moment that brings joy to somebody in the form of humor.
Yes.
And so that's fun. But what's it like to receive that reaction from them? What does that do for you? Because it's like it's an interrelated experience.
Sure. Yeah. It's contagious. I love it.
Yeah.
Like when my wife will say, you find yourself so funny. You laugh at your own jokes. I'm like, yeah, well, it's not that I want to say I'm not laughing at my own jokes as much as I'm laughing at the moment of happiness and laughter. Like I like that. I was watching a comedian the other night who I find very funny, Jimmy Carr. And he has this ridiculous inhaling laugh that he does, which he jokes about. But he laughs when he finds those moments that he's sharing extremely funny because the audience is laughing and he's laughing with them. So I love to laugh with the people in the moment.
For sure.
I think if I were if I were trying to be a stand-up comedian or a comedic actor that was my passion, I think that it would be more of a presentation of I'm telling a joke, let's see if the audience responds. I'm much more of I'm being funny or trying to be funny because I find there's something funny to be said in this moment.
Right.
Now, if it's a role, that's one thing. If someone has written a line for me, or I'm trying to sell a punchline in a performance, that's one thing. But I'm really talking about as a person more than it's a bonus that it's part of my voiceover career that there are humorous roles. But talking about that ultimate boon, it's like part of my persona is I like to be laughing and make people laugh as a person without being completely annoying about it. It's just, and I get back the same emotion. If I see someone laughing, I'm going to laugh with them. Yeah. That's what got me thrown out of a lot of classes too. I might have been the class clown, but if I made that other kid laugh, I was then going to laugh too, and we're both going to get in trouble.
Right. I'm going to brag about you for a moment. We were in Australia, and one of the more prestigious guests there, Barbara Eden from the show I Dream of Jeannie, where she portrays a genie who lives in a bottle. So the venue where we do the autographs is different from the hotel, the very nice hotel we were staying at. Mm-hmm. So all of the guests are on a bus, and everyone's on board except Barbara Eden. And no one's upset with Barbara Eden, but people were wondering, okay, what's taking so long? And you, off the cuff, said they had trouble getting her back in the bottle. And the whole bus, and we're talking about comic book writers, comic book artists, voiceover people, on-camera actors, book writers, everyone just lost it. I was so impressed with you.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for reminding me.
You couldn't have scripted that. That's not a joke you remember and then tell later. That was a spontaneous, wonderful moment of humor.
Thank you, and that's kind of an example of what I was getting at. You're a very funny guy as well, and I think that.
But I don't tell jokes though.
No, but you don't tell jokes, but you have funny quips that you would do the same kind of thing. That was in the moment.
Reaction. That was a reaction to the moment.
Right.
You just had that.
Right. And I think also a lot of my the movies I liked, the TV shows I liked, the comedians that I liked, the Borscht Belt stuff, the Jerry Lewis, that kind of silly, the Mel Brooks.
I used to lip sync Steve Martin albums.
Yes. I think we both shared that. I still have "Comedy Is Not Pretty" on vinyl. Actually, I have that. But yes, I think that Mel Brooks kind of. That silliness, and sometimes it's like it's the groaners where you just go, oh please. But
right.
I enjoy that. So that's part two of my my answer to your question.
Oh, well, that's wonderful and joyful, even just to talk about.
Yeah, see, we laughed during that story.
It's fun. It's uplifting. I have endorphins going through my system. It's lovely. It's lovely. And humor. When I was a kid, I think I liked Han Solo most because he was the funniest.
Exactly.
And Spider-Man, I maybe beat out Batman a little bit because Spider-Man's pretty funny.
Yeah, he is too. Yeah. And which is why I think I really liked Deadpool.
Oh, yeah, which is essentially, as the creator Rob Liefeld of Deadpool will tell you, Deadpool is Spider-Man with this twist on it. That's all he was going for. You can see it even in the costume design.
I liked the quirkier sort of comedy from that.
Darker humor.
Yeah, it was great. But that's another reason why it's like, yeah, cool superhero, but you're making me laugh too. So, without being to me, it was, you walk that fine line of becoming like super corny, Schwarzenegger.
I think there are a few things,
Schwarzenegger type things like "I Let Him Go" and things like that. Like that
stick around.
Yeah, you kind of go during those moments, but that's okay. But I want the full on like, okay, I need a second here. I can't breathe, or just even
people
a cackle.
Have to lie down because they're laughing so hard. Yeah, there are a few things that are more excruciating than someone trying so hard to be funny, and I know that both from being that person, but also being around that person. It's just like just stop, just relax.
Right.
Just relax.
Right. And hopefully I don't get to be that person too much around my friends, but
No, I think you have humor, but you don't what's excruciating about somebody in that posture is that they're trying too hard.
Yes.
Right? And they're not really open. They're trying to make something happen that really isn't organically happening.
Yes.
So.
Well, good. Great. So do you have a second example?
Yes, I do, and it has nothing to do with joy.
Oh.
Well, actually, that's probably a lie. It eventually has to do with joy.
Good.
But but this is another lesson I've learned from the harder, let's say the episode about trials part of my life. So as I've shared before, I had a pronounced period of depression in my adolescence. I mean, it really started a little bit before that. And so that took many, many years for me to get to a place where that wasn't my predominant experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to get past that enough that I was able to have more in my life, including joy. And in the context of the ultimate boon, I want to phrase for the listeners that in these mythic journeys, we often think of the hero goes on a quest. There's that step where there's the call to adventure and then they resist the call to adventure, like Luke saying, oh, I can't do that. I got to go back to the farm. But we know that Luke really wants to go beyond the farm, right?
Right.
And then Luke does so. But then there's the other kind of thing where you're handed a set of circumstances that you're lucky to survive. You don't intend to go on that quest, that adventure. I mean, think of the people surviving the aggression of Russia right now in Ukraine. Those people are heroes that are surviving and fighting back, but they didn't choose that adventure, if you want to put it that way.
Right.
So, and the same is true for people who are suffering from various forms of psychological and emotional trauma. And you are lucky if you get past that, get through that. Not everybody does. Or they do when they fall back, and that's a conversation for another time. But the way that I'd like to characterize my process through that in reflection of this idea of the ultimate boon, which is where you defeat the overlord, you free the people. It doesn't, there's a part of it, like I said previously, where it benefits you directly. Sure. So when I was working through my issues in therapy, and also just acting them out everywhere else. And just to clarify for the audience, I don't think my friends or my girlfriend, they would not have characterized me as like a jerk, abusive and mean.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't my style. But regardless, I would create these dramatic or traumatic circumstances. And I was working through that obviously to essentially save the potential of my future. I wasn't going to commit suicide, but I could have really set myself up for a much more bleak path, losing many opportunities that would have otherwise presented themselves to me, and giving up on myself, not believing that I could get past what it was that was dragging me down. So in that sense, that challenge, that goal, that quest was survival. Not to bring the entire world and elevate it to a better place, but to simply get by. So that's the initial part of it, and that's a long, hard struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody who's dealt with these similar kinds of issues would tell you that you get better at managing them, but it's not like they ever fully go away.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that as well. Okay, so fortunately, I got to a place where I could have a more fulfilling life, and people who cared about me could stop worrying about me or stop worrying about me as much. Right. That was part of the suffering I was bringing to them indirectly, but still doing so. So that's great. But what was more similar to liberating a people and overthrowing an evil overlord, in my family, there were issues. I wasn't the only one to experience some of the negative elements that were within the family structure, and I love my family. I respect my family. And every family has issues. So I was the youngest in my generation, and I was acting out, and I was making it impossible to ignore some of these issues. And I've sometimes characterized myself as not just like the black sheep, but like the black hole in my family. What happened, though, was after years of seeing improvement, gradual improvement over time, it helped my siblings address some of their own things. So after I had been in therapy for, I don't know how many years, a few at least, one of my sisters felt that she could then go to therapy. She might have done that anyway, but she told me at the time that seeing my process helped her to make that step, which ultimately helped herself. And of course, everyone around her. She was a much less extreme example of somebody really struggling, at least externally.
Right.
But still, it was relevant in her development. And my sister, who was the next oldest after that, also had a similar progression. In a sense, you could say I helped to give them permission to seek the help they needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that helped my whole immediate family. And eventually, I think after my mom retired, she also, and I don't think that, I won't take credit for this, but I think maybe she saw that her children had changed and become not just more open, but also more articulate about what their experience is and how to communicate with each other. It's very hard to communicate if you don't know where you're coming from. And one of the minimum things that a therapeutic process should do, whether it's traditional, going to a therapist, psychotherapy, or other forms of therapy, there are many kinds of therapy, but the minimum thing they all have in common is they help center you on where you're at. You understand who you are better. Incidentally, a theme in Crossing the Gods, that mythical show that we will someday bring into being. But that is, I think, a fair example of a different kind of ultimate boon that resonates in a meaningful way to not just your life, but to those around you and perhaps those that you care about most.
Mm-hmm.
And in the 80s when I was struggling so much, it wasn't just because of the shoulder pads and the big hair. There were deep psychological and emotional issues.
And no, he was not playing for the NFL.
No.
And also playing guitar in a hairband. That was not the image.
No. No, it wasn't either of those things. But there was less of a stigma about going to therapy, but compared to today, like there was a huge stigma, or much more of a stigma. Today, it's like not a stigma at all, which I think is a really healthy step in our culture to recognize that we all have things that we will benefit from looking at. And I would recommend therapy to anybody, even if you aren't struggling, because it just helps you, again, center yourself and realize more of your potential and those sorts of things.
And it's not a sign of weakness to search for answers and help from whomever you are reaching out to, whether it's a professional or it's someone that you trust.
Right. Right. Maybe somebody in your community of faith.
Which I think is why a lot of the past, calling this like, there's something wrong with you, or you're weak, or come on, just rub some dirt in it, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
I think that's part of what that stigma was all about. Now,
the true weakness in that mentality is the attachment to invulnerability.
Yeah, I think you're stronger if you can actually say, you know what, I think I need some assistance here. It takes more of a leader to ask for help than to tell people what to do.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's very interesting, and you made it sound like it didn't have joy in it.
But it led to that.
It led to that. Yeah, it led to that, and also how it affected other people. I don't necessarily think that you thought of it that way in the moment. The way you changed, the way that you grew, the way that you healed, was obviously evident to the people around you. They noticed it. They noticed those changes and for the good. And they said, they registered it to themselves as, maybe this will help me as well. That to me, that's kind of that discovery after you've slayed that dragon. I mean, at the point in your life now, you can look at that and say, yeah, this is another reason why I embarked on my hero's journey. Is I think people that are lucky enough to know you as a friend know that you do you take a lot of care in caring for people. You do find joy in helping, in being a supportive person. And it's not a selfish joy. You're a giving person. So this makes total sense to me as your second example of that. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you for letting the listeners in on a little bit more of
absolutely.
Of
and
who
to
you
clarify that the journey isn't done. It's when you're talking about these kinds of things, it's common to still have these struggles, but there is also a place that is demonstrably better than you would have been otherwise.
Yes.
Right. If you hadn't taken those steps, and those were steps I didn't want to take. Those were steps I didn't even realize how depressed I was. I think I mentioned that before. But then that turned out to be one of the most important challenges that I faced at the time, and that I continue to manage to this day. And it has also a similar effect to hopefully at least in some form of example, let people know that they don't have to be defeated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great.
But for the next convention, just to make it clear, you're going to be the laugh guy, and I'm going to be the one who's like, let's talk.
No, let's flip that. Let's flip script and let's do it the other way around, okay? You tell some jokes, you make people laugh, and I will be isolated behind the curtain, behind my table, for some one-on-one sort of helpful advice for people. That's what I'm going to do.
I like that.
Okay,
I like that.
Great.
You know what else I like?
What?
People who hit the like button.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because liking things is so likeful, I can't help but like it.
That's going to be our new slogan on our T-shirts.
Oh, yeah, and speaking of new things, we may have some new merch when you and I appear again.
New merch. And you also mean new merch that's unique.
That's right. That's right.
That you can't get anywhere else.
Original illustrations by Dan Green.
I am so excited to see them and also to...
Well, you've seen a couple of them.
I know, but I want to see... Yeah. I also want to see the final form and the fan response to them. I think they're going to really dig it.
Yeah, I hope so. And I hope to keep doing these sorts of things. I asked people on Twitter... would they prefer like a print or a shirt or a mug? I think I asked, and a lot of votes. The print's a no-brainer, right? And I think T-shirts was next. So
okay,
we're working to set that up as well.
Very good, very good. Yeah. Well, they can let us know some ideas they have, or even some character concept ideas that they might want to share with you. That's great too. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we are going to be making a bunch of appearances this year. So hopefully we'll get a chance to meet a lot of people.
Yeah, people can find out about our Collecticon stuff.
Yes.
And that's not all we have coming up. So
yeah,
we're excited to share everything that we will be appearing at together.
Yes. Thank you. And great podcast today as well, my friend.
I am so delighted to get to do this with you every week. And speaking of being together, we are also very grateful to be together with you listeners every week in our conversation about creativity, inspiration, hit the like button, and dealing with what you're dealt.
Thanks for listening to The Heart of the Cards with Dan Green and Eric Stuart. We hope this conversation in some way spoke to you. Whatever your journey, we look forward to crossing paths again in the next episode. This is Veronica Taylor, and on behalf of Andromeda Productions, we wish you well.
Andromeda, always a sound choice.